Hey amigos, welcome back to the garage. I'm back here again, having to do some work on motorcycles once more. But not on this bike, but I'm going to show you where I'm at with this bike before I get to what I'm going to do now. So anyway, I shared on my community. I've got this oil tank that I stuck on here. It's not really stuck on there. It's just hanging by a wire, just to get a visual on what that looks like. Also, I've got a battery kind of mocked up right here. This is the stock battery right here. And I'm having a little bit of fitment issues with it right here. This tab is supposed to go on this bushing, and apparently the frame will not allow for that to happen without some serious modifications if I'm going to use that battery tray. One mistake I made is, well, number one, I just tried to have my cake and eat it too when it comes to building a motorcycle, which does not exist. That's a silly concept, but I just figured because most of the stuff on this motorcycle, when it was in the original frame, like the oil tank and the battery box, bolted up to the engine, a bracket that was on the engine. But what I didn't take into account is the geometry of the original frame in comparison to the motor mount holes. See how that thing makes a dog leg up like that? Well, this frame over here is completely straight going all the way up, no dog leg. So that says that I cannot run the original style battery, but if I'm going to use that battery tray, I have to cut it up and make it fit, because I want to use this tray because I want to use that oil tank, and I want to use that oil tank because I want to use this battery tray. Because the oil tank, there's these 3 bolt holes back there, and there's 3 bolt holes right here. So this oil tank bolts to this battery tray bolts to that bushing, and I'm going to have to, well, get creative with how I'm going to make it all work. Now I know I could go with a conventional kind of oil tank like this, which is typical on choppers, or maybe the wraparound horseshoe style oil tank like what you see on a Softail, because hey, that's what everybody else is doing, right? Well, guess what? You know, choppers is supposed to be something like, you know, breaking out of the standard, but even there seems to be a standard in the chopper world as far as how you're supposed to build a chopper, what looks cool, what doesn't look cool. But really, looking cool is in the eye of the beholder. And really, if you're going to break the standard, not have a standard, then who says you got to have this, that, and the other to have a chopper? And on top of that, I just like this oil tank. It looks like it makes a statement. It's definitely outside the box of what some people would call choppers. I mean, using OE parts on something that's not standard, oh well. But anyway, I got some other things mocked up. Al Gotch, I got one of your carburetors on here just to see how that would look, and I think that looks pretty darn cool. Pretty obnoxious looking. I think I'm going to do something like that. Of course, it's just mocked up right now. This is, and by no means going to run anytime soon. And I've got the pipes on there, which I love how that looks. It's just down low and sleek. I really can't decide how I'm going to do the oil tank and the battery box until I finally get the transmission back in there, because I'm waiting on parts still, because I have to have my chain hooked up to make sure I have clearance enough to make everything else work. Yeah, going against the standard is always cool. Breaking the standard of what is not standard is even better in my book. So that's it. That's how it's going to go. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll get impatient and go with the flow, whatever is not standard. But never mind about this motorcycle right here, because I'm not going to work on that right now. What this video is really about mainly is, well, I wanted to go for a ride today on the Tramp. But one thing that's really annoying whenever you want to go for a ride is a dead battery. So needless to say, what I'm doing today, I'm putting a battery in the Tramp. Now, why in the world would I want to share that kind of thing when most every one of you knows how to do that? I would hope so. Well, there's some people out there who just do not know how to prepare their battery rightly. That is, if they're buying a battery that is not gel packed or that is not already prepared. The one I bought, I have to prepare it because I have a very strange battery for this motorcycle, much less for a chopper. At least I think it's strange, but I'll tell you what I'm talking about. This is what the battery looks like. It's a strange battery because of its dimensions, okay? And I'll tell you why I'm using this battery. When I first was building the Tramp, I was going to try and use a regular FX style battery like this. And I was going to put it right here behind the motor and in front of the back wheel. But the problem I was having with this battery box, which would fit a typical FX battery, well, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I put it right here where this battery is now, and when I put it there, it was not clearing the chain right here. I found that the YUASA battery, this specific battery, would be conducive for what I was doing when I was building this bike. I actually made that battery box too out of some angle. But however, the battery's 3 years old, and it was in the spring of late 2017 when it had its first startup. So about 3 years is about what you'll get out of these things apparently. But what I got to do with this thing is that I have to go ahead and install my electrolyte, basically it's battery acid, into this battery, and I'm going to show you guys how you do that. That is, if you have a setup like this. Okay, first off, since there's going to be fumes coming from this, first order of business, you want plenty of ventilation. I got this door open, I got that door open over there. My second order of business, what should you do? If you got them, read the directions. But since I already know what I'm doing, I don't need them. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take the battery, I'm going to go ahead and peel this thing off right here. I'm going to take this, I'm going to pull this cap off like this, and I'm going to lay it aside. As you can see, there's aluminum foil right here. So you're going to take this thing like so, and you're going to place it on there, and you're going to put some pressure on there. There. I'm going to let that sit like that until it's finished draining, and then, well, fast forward. Okay, it's been a few minutes and looks like the electrolyte has completely drained down into the battery. So what you want to do next is carefully, very careful, well, that wasn't too bad. Just pull this thing off. Try not to get any residual acid on anything that you don't have to, namely your hands, if there's anything that comes out of there. But this is completely empty. And feeling the battery, it is warm. That means that the acids are doing its job, which is why I said you need to have proper ventilation, because there's gases coming out of here while it's doing its job. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that thing sit right now for a while, because when it's done doing that, I'm going to take this piece that I took off the electrolyte bottle, and we're going to reuse that to put on the battery to seal the battery up. But you don't want to do that before this thing is done doing what it's doing. It doesn't tell you to do that in the directions, but I know from experience from past batteries that you want to do that, because if you seal this thing up before this thing is done, it's going to swell up and possibly explode on you. So I'm going to go in and get some lunch, and I'm going to come out and check on it. May have to let it sit for 4 hours, 24 hours. Usually the longer the better. Well, maybe I don't have to wait 24 hours. It's already nice and cooled off already, just more like several hours. So anyway, let's go ahead and get this little thing on right here, and maybe we can take us a little ride. Okay, once this thing is on, there's some words on here that says do not open. Okay, so once you got them on there, don't ever open it back up again. Done. Now let's get it in the, hold on a sec. Oh shoot. Charging method. 1.2 amps by 5 to 10 hours. Well then, that kind of changes things. This thing will be charging for about 5 to 10 hours, and I guess the timing is perfect anyway, because there is a big monsoon headed this direction, and who in the world would want to ride in something like that, you know? So to sum it up, as I went through, if you have to add electrolyte to your battery, put the stuff in there, let it drain down into the battery like so, like you saw earlier, and let it vent, and feel the battery periodically. If it's still warm, don't put the cap on. But when it cools down to the ambient temperature of the atmosphere around it, then that's the time to put the cap on and put a battery charger on it and let it sit for a little while until it's fully charged. So anyway, so if you find that helpful to you, go ahead and feel free to give this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe and hit that bell icon for more videos coming up. And like I usually say, you know, you guys who have been here for a while, this is my cliche. I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to film next, but I will try to keep it interesting. So you guys keep the rubber side down, and you be good to yourselves, and thanks a lot.